It's easier to apply for the unmarried partner visa now. I'm going to explain in this video how I've been approaching these cases with my clients. So we'll go to the core legal requirements now. So the core legal requirement is that where the applicant and their partner are not married or in a civil partnership, they must have been in a relationship similar to marriage or civil partnership for at least 2 years before the date of application. And the relevant caseworker guidance says there's no requirement for the parties to a durable relationship to have been living together for at least 2 years, as long as the relationship is similar to a marriage or civil partnership. And it's alternatively put here. It says, for a relationship to be similar to marriage or civil partnership, the couple must usually have lived together as a couple, not just as friends, and show an ongoing commitment to one another. And then it says, however, in some circumstances, there may be evidence of a durable relationship similar to marriage or civil partnership where the couple have not or currently do not live together. And in some of my clients' cases, they don't live together now and they've never lived together. One of the interesting reasons that I've relied on is referred to here in the guidance. It says in some countries, unmarried partners cannot live together, and you will need to assess whether the relationship is similar to a marriage or civil partnership in that it is more than a boyfriend-girlfriend type relationship. So that's the test. And there's also reference here to a reasonable explanation might include if they cannot live together temporarily due to work for cultural reasons while overseas, or if one partner is living temporarily with a close family member to provide care. So it says here, look, in such cases, you will need to be satisfied the living apart is temporary and that despite it, the relationship is still subsisting. And you should, this is a key passage, you should also expect to see additional evidence of commitment, such as shared financial responsibility or visits to be satisfied the relationship is not broken down. Now, the key point is the evidence. So the evidence table shown here means that if you're not married, then the only categories you can rely on are going to be shared financial responsibilities or, quote, other evidence to show genuine and a subsisting relationship when apart. And this references money transfers. And then under the strong evidence column, you've got shared financial responsibilities. You've got bank statements, joint or individual, and then they refer to mortgage statements. And you can also see under other evidence here, it's got holiday bookings and flight, train, bus tickets. In other words, you've been traveling together. And then communication records, and then written statements. But communication records and written statements are in the weak evidence column. But the practical reality of these cases is that what you're going to need is your WhatsApp records, if you've been on, communicating on WhatsApp, that applies to most people, or on Telegram or Botin, depending on which area of the world you're in. But what you can usually get, even from WhatsApp, it's a bit tricky to get, but you can get a downloadable CSV file. Now, this is quite an intrusive process from a privacy perspective, right? Having to show private messages. And really, my approach is that you can redact that as long as you're transparent about the fact that you have redacted them. You're not producing records that have been altered without saying that they have been altered. And the standard approach to redactions is to mark something as redacted. In other words, to black it out so that the authorities can see that you have blacked it out. And then with the covering note explaining that you've done that for privacy reasons. But the mere fact of the communications may be enough in some cases to corroborate what you're saying. And what is that? Well, it's the history of the relationship. You're going to be setting out in a statement, usually from the partner in the first instance, rather than from you as applicant. And it's the partner who's going to be saying, yes, we met on such and such a date, we entered into a relationship on this date, and then the relationship evolved as follows. So done several applications now successfully where people have not lived together. That's the sort of updated position, if you like, is that there's no longer a requirement that you live together. It's simply that the default evidential position is that they'll expect evidence of cohabitation. And where you haven't lived together, then you're going to need to be showing the communication records. I do a very detailed a chronology in a statement, setting out the full chronology of the relationship. And then that is supported by the communication records. And then some evidence of shared financial responsibilities and the history of the money transfers, usually in an Excel or Google Sheets document, with cross-referencing both the money transfer and it going out of one account and then into another account. And what they'll do is treat it really as a forensic accountancy exercise, effectively look into it in great detail so that document and the statements need to be completely bulletproof. Now, the best practice that reflects my approach is, as I say, for the main statement to come from the partner, and that's supported by your statement, and that confirms you've read and understood it, and perhaps elaborates on particular aspects of it. But it shouldn't just be you and your partner. It should also be typically at least one other family member confirming the history of the relationship as well. And especially if you've been living apart for cultural related reasons, then dealing with the detail of that. So you can't just mention it as an aside. It's got to be fully detailed. Sometimes maybe it's actually religious. In other cases, it might be a cultural practice, but there's got to be some evidence of that in terms of talking of the detail of it. In many cases, I've had cases where people have been living in the UK and for cultural reasons, they've been living apart. So the guidance from the Home Office only deals with talking about certain countries, but even within countries, there's different practices and of course different social groups. But what I'm saying is you've got to be really specific about the cultural practice, and don't expect that you can just sort of assert it and it will just immediately be accepted. So yeah, potential opportunity here, and this arises in different contexts. This it could be that, say, you're looking to switch from one visa category to another, and maybe your partner might be switching to another visa route, let's say the skilled worker route. Maybe you're switching to join your partner on a dependent visa, so switching in country, or it could be that you're applying from outside of the country. I've done both scenarios, and I'd say that the key thing to prepare you for is that it might be easier to get married than to prepare one of these applications, just in terms of the document management and the volume of documents. Because if this application is executed correctly, then it should be hundreds of pages, and it's probably going to be over 1,000 pages once everything's put together with all of the supporting documents. Where there's photos relied on, you must state date, event, and then actually say who's in the photograph. Don't, from left to right, and I don't just or from right to left as it may be. But my point is, don't just expect that the Home Office will recognise someone from having seen the other documents. It needs to all be spelt out. So, of course, if you're on the cusp of getting married and assuming it's all genuine and so forth, then there might be a decision to be made as to whether to wait and get married, because instead of all of this, you'll just need one document, which is the marriage certificate, and that is in most cases a vastly easier proposition. But if you are going to apply and you're going to be unmarried when you apply, then please bear all of this in mind. Best of luck, and I do have a consultation service. If you want some support, you can schedule a call with me using the link below. Bye for now.